The limited data for supporting our comments are firstly from the external documents, which we mentioned from the WEF, and some documents from the World Bank, as well as a simple content analysis that we did on the PSTU plan itself. And all of those are elaborated in the document. I just want to now move quickly, Mr. Chairman, since time is against us, to our major recommendations. Firstly, the JCS recommends that a review of the overall vision and mission of the public sector should be conducted as part of the reform program and prior to structural and contextual changes. 2, the mission and resources of the public sector should be specifically and explicitly used to enhance national human capital development, innovation, and facilitate the growth and development of businesses, which are in fact the only vehicle available for growing national wealth and prosperity, and so lead to an enhancement in the quality of life of all our citizens. Thirdly, equal attention should be paid in the reform exercise to the context as well as the structure of the public sector. In many respects, the critical transformation of the public sector is less about the structure of government, important though that dimension is, and more about the men and women of the public sector buying into a grand vision of Jamaica, being more than a bit player, and I reference to level 1, which is part of the document, a bit player on the global stage, but rather embracing a global mindset of one Jamaica, public and private sector, taking its economically prosperous place in the world. Fourthly, how the structure and context of the reform public sector assure a more stable macroeconomic environment is vital for building out a knowledge-based society and economy, as well as for supporting global competitiveness. And this should be clearly articulated in the reform process as part of driving growth and prosperity creation. 5, and I'm getting IT specific now, CETO, which is a central, I think, Information Technology Office, should be retained. I think there's a recommendation that it be merged and that it's the head of the agency be renamed as a Chief Information Officer working out of the Office of the Prime Minister. We see CETO as being more than serving the purpose that it currently serves. I think CETO can serve a broader national purpose, embracing a vision that moves both the private and public sectors towards being more taking on issues to do with creating a knowledge economy and society. So CETO should be retained, but given a broader national mandate akin to its original intent to oversee the national IT policy development at the strategic level, and with a vision that embraces both public and private sectors. CETO's remit should be to facilitate growth and development of IT resources and capabilities of both sectors as part of developing our national knowledge society and economy. To reflect this enlarged scope, we recommend that CETO be renamed as a National Information Technology Organization. Number 6, JCS recommends that the proposal be reviewed in relation to the Spatial Data Management Division, and that division could possibly become the strategic arm of CETO dealing with geospatial industrial development. 7, changing gear a bit, we recommend that the Ministries of Education and Labor be merged to reflect the full lifelong timeline of education and learning for productive engagement. The present mission of the Ministry of Education, which is specified in the document, already embraces both education before entering the workforce, as well as training and skills development for productive employment. We had a little bit of concern as to whether this was a crazy idea, but when we did our Google search, we actually discovered that in Australia, the department that handles workforce and education issues is actually merged, and it's called Department of Education, Employment, and Workplace Relations. So it's not an odd idea. 8, The mission and role of the present Ministry of Education, Investment and Commerce needs to be redefined and refocused on the development of business resources and capabilities built on innovation and knowledge-based products and services for supporting national wealth creation and preservation. 9, media matters, we think, should be decoupled from the ICT portfolio ministry and merged with one that is handling the cultural area of government. The Ministry of Information, Communications and Technology should focus on strategy development and policy making for the country's ICT, human resources, and businesses. We know that there's a commonality of the term information, but we think that media is actually quite different from ICT. 10. The last 2 recommendations speak to some observations re security. We feel that the traditional JCF should actually practice a softer type of policing. And so we recommend that we agree with the PSTU that the personnel of the ISCF should be incorporated into the JCF. However, we recommend that the Special Constabulary Force as an institution should be rebuilt and rebranded as a separate elite autonomous anti-terrorism special forces unit outside of the JCF, specifically to deal with the harder face of policing and to preserve the traditional JCF to deal with the softer side of policing. And recommendation number 11, our final recommendation, is that having regard to cross-border policing matters, we recommend that probably a look should be taken at a cross-border Caribbean-wide policing unit, elite policing unit focused on matters that are transnational. And those are our recommendations. Finally, Mr. Chairman, if I can just briefly close on what I'd like to call a global knowledge model. The globe can be divided into 2 groups of people, I like to say. Persons, businesses, and countries that are building, creating, and also supplying knowledge and knowledge products and knowledge services. And persons, business, and countries that are, on the other side, consuming or buying other persons' knowledge products. Where do we want Jamaica to be positioned? Do we want us to be perpetually buying other person's knowledge, or do we want to ramp up our game and start being suppliers of knowledge? And with that, Mr. Chairman, I present these ideas to the committee for consideration. Thank you.
Excellent presentation, Mr. Clarke. Members, I think today we've had some really superb. The batting has been very, very good, reminiscent of. So I'm now going to members. Mr. Bartlett, I think you want to lead off, and what we can do is I give you a lot of latitude. Unusual amount of latitude today because we're taking. So Mr. Bartlett and Mr. Stern.
Thank you, Chairman.